The absolute rule of reaction. They saw your flinch, that flicker in your eyes, the change in your voice, the invisible twitch that gave you away. In that single moment, they conquered you, not through strength or superior intellect, but because they located your trigger. This is the genesis of all power games. It begins not with armies, but with your reaction. In a world built on manipulation, the man who reacts first is the first to lose. We are imprisoned in an era where emotion is a blood sport. Every statement is dissected, every opinion weaponized, every simple disagreement escalated into war. The modern system does not thrive on reason. It feeds on offense. That is why the majority live as prisoners, slaves to their own feelings. An insult detonates them. A slight opposition causes them to crumble. They rush into conflict, driven not by strategy or clear purpose, but by pure emotion. They call this passion. They call it self-respect. Machiavelli would have recognized it as slavery. To be offended is to be utterly controlled. Every time you react, you are gifting your adversary the map to your mind. You show them precisely where to strike next. You hand over the remote control to your emotional state. This invisible power becomes their ultimate weapon against you. The world does not respect the emotional. It exploits them. It meticulously studies their reactions, their triggers, their deepest fears, and uses these feelings as leverage. For the manipulator, your feelings are nothing more than currency. Your raw outrage, your deep-seated insecurity, your hunger for validation, these are tools in the hands of those who command the game. They don't need to defeat you. They only need to provoke you. Once you take the bait, once you give them a reaction, the game is already settled. This is the timeless secret Machiavelli grasped. Power is not morality. It is control. And the highest form of control is emotional dominance, the sovereign capacity to remain silent when you are mocked, to be utterly calm when violently provoked, to be unreadable when under fire. Because in the silence of restraint resides the most commanding expression of true strength. Let us confront a harsh reality. The world is not fair, it is not gentle, and it does not yield to your feelings. You can cry, complain, or scream in a rage, but emotions do not move the world. Only strategy does. Those who have mastered their inner state rule over those who cannot. When you react, you step instantly out of command and into chaos. You transition from a ruler to the one being ruled. You cease playing chess and become the pawn that is moved. This is the mechanism through which people ruin relationships. Leaders lose nations, and individuals surrender their freedom, one reaction at a time. The man who is perpetually offended believes he is fighting for honor. Machiavelli would declare that he is surrendering his crown. For the man who can be offended can be controlled. The man who can be provoked can be predicted. And the man who can be predicted can be conquered. Therefore, confront this question. What truly offends you? Is it the sting of rejection? Is it brutal public criticism? Is it the feeling of being fundamentally misunderstood? Good, because you now hold the exact blueprint of your weakness. Every external offense is a mirror, revealing the part of you that must be destroyed. The true path to power begins not with shallow motivation or self-help slogans, but with death. The death of your sensitivity, the death of your emotional reactivity, the death of the desperate need to be validated. If you can eliminate that needy component, nothing and no one can hold sway over you. A man who is genuinely unoffendable cannot be manipulated. He becomes fundamentally unpredictable, and unpredictability is the unshakable foundation of power. Most spend their lives fiercely defending their feelings. They demand validation, they demand respect, they demand understanding. What they tragically fail to recognize is that this very demand is their enslavement. Every time you demand something from the world, you concede that the world holds the power to bestow or withhold what you crave. This is the precise moment you forfeit your freedom. Freedom is not getting what you want. It is no longer needing it. When you have eliminated the need to be accepted, when you have severed the need to be understood, when you no longer feel compelled to prove yourself to anyone, you rise completely above the battlefield. The world's control extends only to those who desperately seek control from it. In The Prince, Machiavelli warned rulers against provoking the masses unnecessarily, not out of ethical concern, but because widespread emotion clouds strategy. The same principle applies to you. When you are offended, your capacity for clear thought is hijacked. Your emotions instantly replace your logic. The moment this occurs, the calm individual on the other side becomes your master. Grasp this. The truly powerful do not fight with blind anger. They fight with cold calculation. They strike, not when they are emotional, but when their opponent is. Emotion guarantees blindness, and blindness generates opportunity. So, when you feel that corrosive heat surge in your chest, that immediate, desperate need to react, that is your signal, not to strike, but to observe. Because silence disarms the manipulator, indifference destroys the bait, and calmness is what truly terrifies them. To become untouchable, you must master the ancient art of stillness. You must become like a vast stone, silent, utterly steady, and profoundly unreadable. When the world hurls its chaos at you, you respond with nothing. No twitch, no flinch, no reaction, only composed observation. Because every time you refuse to react, you reclaim your power. Every second you stay silent, you are becoming stronger. Every moment you remain calm, you broadcast one definitive message to the world. I am not your puppet. Remember this immutable truth. The first person to react always loses. The person who maintains silence always controls. This is the primary rule of power. This is the cornerstone of Machiavellian mastery. So you must burn the part of you that flinches. You must kill the reflexive need to react and rebuild yourself into a force the world cannot move. Stay cold, stay silent, stay dangerous. The hidden war offense was once a private indicator, a quiet signal revealing where you were still fragile and needed growth. But the world has fundamentally changed. Today's true rulers, the corporations, media platforms, and ideologues, discovered an extraordinary fact. Offense can be meticulously engineered. Sensitivity can be commodified, and raw emotion can be weaponized. They understood that if they can make you feel offended, they can dictate your actions. And if they can control your actions, they command your obedience. This was the birth of modern control. Look closely. You reside in a world that doesn't just tolerate your emotions, it feeds on them. Social media thrives exclusively on outrage. News networks generate profit from deep division. Politics survives only by fostering emotional chaos. Why? Because outrage sells, offense spreads, and emotional people are utterly predictable, making them effortlessly simple to govern. This is not a coincidence. This is the design. Machiavelli would gaze upon our modern world and smile with dark admiration. He wrote that rulers must keep the people occupied with distractions so they don't find time to rebel. Today, the rulers have perfected this strategy. They no longer require gladiator fights. They possess something vastly more efficient, your emotions. They keep you perpetually busy being offended, fighting manufactured ghosts, and attacking one another, ensuring you never glance up to see who is truly holding the strings. Offense is a multi-billion-dollar business. Every emotional reaction you provide, every click, every share, every furious comment, fuels an invisible machine. You believe you are expressing your authentic self, but in reality, you are performing exactly as you were programmed. Your outrage is meticulously measured. Your pain is relentlessly monetized. Your attention is harvested like a crop. Every second you spend in the state of being offended, someone, somewhere, is profiting enormously. And while you exhaust your energy in digital conflicts, they silently build empires in the calm. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly governed your own attention? When was the last time you saw something deliberately provocative and simply walked away, untouched? You couldn't, could you? Because offense is highly addictive. It gives you a potent sense of righteousness. It makes you feel important, justified, and intensely alive. That is why they feed it to you relentlessly, spoonful after spoonful. Every insult, every viral controversy, it is a hook. And you keep biting, convinced you are fighting back. But all you are doing is reacting. And when you react, they rule. The truth is brutal. Modern society has systematically trained you to be weak, not through oppression, but through validation. It rewards fragility. It applauds emotional outrage. It glorifies emotional instability under the guise of authenticity. You are told that expressing your emotions is the ultimate power. But the more you express them, the more predictable you become. And predictability is the death of power. When the world can reliably guess your reaction, it owns you. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Power resides not in chaotic emotion, but in controlled perception. The ruler who remains calm while the world rages becomes godlike because he controls not only his inner state, but the entire emotional landscape around him. Today's manipulators, the corporate princes and digital kings, understand this exact law. They conquer not through raw strength, but through your feelings. Every trending scandal, every viral controversy, every meticulously engineered moral outrage is not about the search for truth. It is about attention and ultimately control. You are the product. They have perfected the formula. Outrage divides. Division distracts. Distraction prevents rebellion. The more easily offended the general population becomes, the safer those in power remain. Because emotional people do not question fundamental systems, they attack each other. They fight viciously over words, symbols, and opinions, while the real source of power moves completely unseen, untouched, and unchallenged. Every time you take the bait, every single time you react, you are strengthening the very hands that keep you weak. This is the true genius of modern control. They have successfully converted emotional fragility into a badge of honor. They have convinced you that sensitivity is strength, that tears are courage, and that outrage is a virtue. The reality is that sensitivity is vulnerability, and vulnerability is a lucrative opportunity for those who know how to use it. The world does not respect the man who screams the loudest. It respects the man who stays silent while everyone else is screaming. Because silence is not weakness, it is strategy. And strategy, not emotion, is what determines who wins the war. Every empire, every campaign, every movement that successfully manipulates emotion has one supreme goal: control the narrative by controlling how you feel. Emotion molds perception, and perception molds reality. If they can make you feel angry, they can accurately direct your anger. If they can make you feel hurt, they can point your pain at a pre-selected target. If they can make you feel righteous, they can convince you to destroy anyone they label as wrong. When this happens, they don't even need to lift a finger. You will fight yourselves and each other. You become both the soldier and the battlefield. Understand this law. When everyone is offended, no one is thinking. When everyone is reacting, no one is strategizing. And when no one is strategizing, the game is permanently over for everyone except the one who set the trap. This is the true weaponization of sensitivity. What then is the solution? How do you escape this perfectly built trap? You detach. You simply stop reacting. You stop feeding the machine with your valuable attention. You stop giving power to insults, opinions, and digital wars. You cease defending yourself from mere ghosts. Because every reaction you withhold starves the system that depends entirely on your compliance. Every single moment you remain perfectly calm, you reclaim a piece of your shattered sovereignty. You do not win by yelling louder. You win by going silent. Because silence is not surrender, it is dominance. The world craves your emotions. The world wants you reactive. The world wants you offended, because an offended man is a slave, but a detached man, a man who cannot be provoked, that man is dangerous. That man is free. So when the next manufactured outrage appears, the next insult, the next targeted attack, simply smile in silence. You know exactly what it is. Another invisible leash, another trap, another test. And this time, you will not take the bait. The untouchable mind. They tried to offend you, to provoke you, to force you to dance to their chaotic rhythm. And when you remained absolutely silent, when you refused to flinch, they began to fear you. The one who cannot be moved cannot be controlled. This is your final transformation, the ultimate stage in your evolution. You are no longer playing defense. You are no longer chained to the world's chaos. You have ascended to a state Machiavelli himself recognized but few ever attain. You have become untouchable. The untouchable mind is not devoid of feeling. It registers everything, but nothing is permitted to rule it. Insults pass through it. Chaos swirls around it, but never within it. Machiavelli warned that the ruler who relies on the will of others for survival will always be ruled. The unsaid truth is that emotional dependence is the absolute worst form of slavery. The key to shattering these chains is detachment. Not the cold indifference of the defeated, but the disciplined detachment of the powerful, the kind that enables you to see clearly, act with precision, and remain perfectly unshaken while all others drown in noise. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It signifies that you no longer hand your supreme power to the opinions, insults, or validation of others. The world wants you emotional because emotion is predictable. They want you attached because attachment is leverage. They want you to react because reaction is obedience. But when you achieve true detachment, you reclaim your sovereignty. You cease chasing approval. You cease defending yourself. You stop explaining your choices. You move through the world like a shadow, untouchable, unreadable, unbreakable. Consider the most powerful figures in history. What is their common trait? Not rage, not sensitivity, but composure. When chaos erupted, they became still. When the world screamed, they spoke in whispers. When others broke down, they calmly calculated. This is not a natural gift. It is a trained discipline. The ability to instantly detach from the emotion while remaining fully connected to the desired outcome. You care about the result, but you utterly ignore the surrounding noise. A brutal truth. Most will never reach this level of power because they love their pain too much. They find a false identity in being easily offended. They confuse being loud with being strong. They mistake a reflexive reaction for genuine relevance. Feeling is easy. Control is rare, and the rare become rulers. To become truly untouchable, you must master 3 core disciplines. First, the discipline of observation. You must see before you ever speak. Watch everything. Everyone reveals themselves by what they react to. Learn their individual triggers. The one who observes in silence has already won half the war. Second, the discipline of distance. Not every insult deserves your attention. You must learn to walk away without any trace of emotion, because walking away is not weakness. It is war by other means. It is the ultimate denial of their satisfaction. Third, the discipline of stillness. In a world addicted to chaos, stillness is the ultimate rebellion. Stillness terrifies the emotional because it starkly exposes their instability. When they cannot shake you, they inevitably begin to question themselves. That is how power quietly and permanently shifts. Machiavelli said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." The fool reacts. The wise act. The fool speaks. The wise watch. The fool offends. The wise observe. The untouchable mind operates from foresight, not impulse. It predicts moves, anticipates all manipulation, and dismantles it before it can even begin. Once you master this, the world's weapons are useless against you, for its sharpest weapon is emotion. If it can't move you, it can't cut you. They will label you cold or emotionless. They will accuse you of fundamentally changing. But what they truly mean is, they can no longer control you. They can no longer predict you, and that frightens them to their core. Because when a man becomes perfectly detached, he becomes free, and freedom terrifies the enslaved. You have now learned what the vast masses never will. Offense is a leash. Reaction is a cage. Attachment is a trap. Detach, and the game instantly ends. You stop being a pawn on the board. You become the player, the strategist, the ruler of your own inner kingdom. From that deep stillness, you begin to shape reality itself. The untouchable mind transcends both fear and ambition. It no longer fears loss because it is detached. It no longer craves external approval because it is already complete. It no longer seeks control over others because it has fully mastered itself. This is the highest level of power, self-mastery. The man who rules himself rules everything. The man who controls his reactions controls every room he enters. The man who cannot be offended cannot be manipulated. He does not have to chase dominance. He embodies it. Here is the final, essential truth. You lose the moment you react. You win the moment you observe. You ascend the moment you detach. This is not about being cruel. It is about being sovereign. It is about owning your emotions so completely that no one can weaponize them. When they provoke, you watch. When they insult, you smile internally. When they rage, you remain still. Because stillness is not silence, it is strength. And silence is not weakness, it is control. The world will continue its relentless testing. It will tempt you to react, to rage, to prove, to defend. But you must remember, you have already won the invisible war. Every second you remain composed is a silent declaration of power. Every breath you take in silence is a declaration of your independence from their manipulation. You are no longer controlled by the noise of the herd. You are the silence that commands it. Stay silent. Stay cold, stay dangerous. Because when nothing can offend you, you own yourself completely.